Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to work with RAI and come out with this report. And I'm really grateful for James' message here because since morning we have been hearing a lot about digital and the virtual world. So I thought it would be good to bring back the audience into the real world where there are people, there are emotions, and these are people you deal with on a day-to-day basis who make your digital world come true. So when we came to this exercise of, let's have this report, what we found is that a lot has been said about, how the consumers are, behaving, what is the demand, and therefore how does it shape retail. Where I think we are also struggling is in this extremely dynamic market and a very small workforce which is talented to be able to come to this industry. What is it that organizations are doing to enable them, to make them capable, to skill them so that retail becomes an industry that they really want to work for? So that's where the thought process emerged, and that's how we have come up with this entire report. And this draws upon some of our findings from our global survey, which we publish every year. But this has been juxtaposed with what we have in India by talking to many organizations in the industry. And these are some of the trends that we have seen. So most of you will be having this copy with you. And there are primarily 4 trends that we have seen. I'll go through it very quickly. The first one is about managing the talent, hiring the talent. What is it that organizations are doing differently when the demands are so different? And we have been talking about the digital wave. So how are we dealing with the employees? How are we equipping the employees to be able to deal with the digital wave and to service the customer in a much better way? The second trend which we see here is about how do we bring in digitization to the employees' world? How do we equip them? What is it that we need to do that, if there is a customer, who is having a certain expectation of, faster, better, then how do we equip him or her to be able to service them? The third is around balanced dynamic staffing models. I will speak a little bit about the gig economy, which is across the globe. How we use analytics to be able to drive how we staff the retail stores, and use that as a model to make sure that it is effective, efficient, and it is cost effective as well. The fourth trend which we have seen is to make retail an employer of choice. What are organizations doing to make it much more friendly for people to come and join these organizations, to stay there? And we all know that a happy employee will always make your customers happy. So what is it that we are doing there? So these are the 4 trends that you will see in the report, and there are examples both globally as well as in India that we have taken to sort of bring it to life. These are some of the things that you will see in terms of the details around these 4 trends. The first one, for example, about the talent, how organizations, you will find, are going a step ahead, not just posting their requirement of talent for their organization, but making it much more interactive, even using gamification to a point where employees, before they actually become employees, are actually able to see and feel the organization through various social media before they even come into the organization. So it is a way of branding them, branding the organization, but it also gives a sense of knowing the company before you coming. So this is one of the examples of how you're attracting talent into the organization, little differently from the way it was earlier. Similarly, if we go through the second trend, which is increased digitization, there are organizations doing different things, and one of the examples I can recollect is that when we had conversations with them, they said we try and make sure that there are apps which are there with the employees so that they can predict the inventory. They know which color, which type, or which product is available in the store, so that they don't have to waste time and effort to go and search for that, because it is there handy right there with them. So these are small ways in which digitization is also being made available to the employee. Similarly, many HR processes are being used in such a way that right from the time the employee enters into the stores or into the office, there are ways in which they save time by using, let's say, a digital scanner instead of actually having to give their attendance in person to be able to get into the store. So that is effective in two ways. It saves time, and it sort of builds a discipline of giving the attendance as well. So there are similar small examples you will find in the report right through the employee life cycle, in which we have mentioned about different things that is being done to make the employee's life much simpler through digitization initiatives. If we talk about making retail an employment choice, one of the things we find is that a lot of induction and training goes into the process of actually letting the employee know about the organization. A lot of employer branding is done. Lots of, you have various means of communicating to the employee that this is a place where they should stay. They are also inviting the employees to be much more innovative. Now, when I say innovative, it is actually trying to make them participate in some of these decisions, because you can always take an employee for granted and give them rules and regulations to operate in. But the moment they feel that they are part of the innovation process of making the sales of the stores, or contributing in any way to the organization, which helps them to make an impact with the consumers or the customers, they feel much more involved. They feel that they belong. So innovation is the other thing which they are really looking forward to. And it also talks about a lot of talent strategies, including things like, what is my career plan, what is my growth? Because often you find that, maybe if you go down into the stores, there is a feeling sometimes that, you are within this store is where the growth is. But are there other opportunities? Are we looking at different things? Are we using analytics to be able to predict that these are some talent that we want in the organization, and how can we groom them? So those questions are being addressed by organizations to make them employer of choice. And the fourth trend, there are multiple examples there, but it is primarily addressing the fact that you have people out there who are not necessarily employees on the payroll of organizations. So, you have mothers who have taken off, let's say, on a maternity leave. You have people who have retired, but have a whole repository of knowledge to be able to support you. So this is called the gig economy, which is not people who are there virtually to be able to support you. And how are organizations making use of this gig economy to be able to make sure that they do not necessarily have a very large workforce, but also use the workforce that they have intelligently in places where they really need the talent, but also use the gig economy to be able to staff their people right, make sure that the working hours are much more flexible, and use it to the best of the stores and the organization's capabilities. So these are broadly the four trends, and I've just given examples very quickly to be able to substantiate some of these, and there are many more in the report. So I hope you go through the report and you find it useful, informative, and any questions which you have on the report, since we have a panel discussion, you can write to me. You can write to Anil. I think all our details are there as part of that, and we'll be happy to take those questions.